There is a quiet strength that most people will never truly grasp because it doesn't declare itself loudly. It doesn't pursue validation, nor does it strive to be noticed. Yet, it is unmistakably sensed by everyone. We find ourselves in a world that applauds loudness, quick answers, boisterous self-assurance, and perpetual motion. However, genuine intelligence, especially in women, frequently manifests itself in a calm way. This isn't born of apprehension, but rather from being centered, stable, and complete. A truly intelligent woman isn't always the one with the most impressive academic achievements or the most forceful opinion in a room. She is the one capable of disengaging from turmoil without feeling the need to establish a point. She is the one who understands that drawing attention is not the same as earning respect. She is the one who simply knows. The way I treat myself establishes the standard for every relationship I engage in. Consequently, this discussion isn't about strategies for impressing others. It's not about achieving flawlessness. It is instead about cultivating awareness. For the moment a woman awakens to her patterns, to how she conducts herself, how she thinks, and how she responds, she unlocks a profound, subtle power that transforms the very atmosphere of any space she enters. Let us journey together into that heightened state of awareness. If you are encountering this for the first time, welcome to Self-Mastery, a place where we share timeless wisdom intended to help you safeguard your energy, elevate your mental state, and proceed with purpose. Be sure to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you never miss a message that resonates with your spirit, fortifies your inner being, and has the potential to alter your entire trajectory. Let us comments. There is a distinct difference between remaining silent and achieving stillness. Many individuals maintain outward quietness, yet their minds race like a bustling marketplace, filled with internal clamor, constantly seeking approval, apprehensive of judgment, and yearning for acclamation. However, a truly intelligent woman acquires a skill that few ever mastering inner silence isn't about the absence of sound. It is about eradicating internal discord. She doesn't avoid people to preserve her peace. She simply exercises discretion, not allowing every stimulus to command her attention. Her mind becomes a consecrated space, not accessible to every conversation, not exposed to every emotional climate. And this is not a product of arrogance. It is the outcome of clarity. This kind of clarity emerges from repeated encounters with the consequences of sacrificing inner tranquility to address external disorder. She has learned through life, perhaps through challenging experiences, that persistently engaging in debates to validate her worth, ceaselessly explaining her personal limits, and constantly reacting to the emotions of others does not bring peace. It only leaves her feeling drained. In the realm of neuroscience, there is a concept known as cognitive load. This refers to the quantity of information your brain is processing at any given moment. Excessive stimulation, whether stemming from unfavorable conversations, emotional disagreement, or lover, even excessive rumination triggers the release of stress hormones such as cortisol. Over time, this overwhelming burden weakens the prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain responsible for effective decision-making, self-regulation, and empathy. Yet, when a woman learns to cultivate her inner quietness, she safeguards that sacred internal space. She provides her mind and body with the necessary room to regulate themselves. And this straightforward action becomes the cornerstone of emotional intelligence, not merely in theory, but in the tangible way she engages within her relationships. Picture a woman who consistently reacts on impulse. Her partner utters something thoughtless, and instantly she retaliates sharply. Her superior overlooks her efforts, and she cedes with indignation. Her friend neglects to call, and she interprets it as a personal slight. Her existence becomes a continuous succession of emotional highs and lows. It's exhausting, unstable, and lacking in grounding. Her nervous system never finds a sense of security. Now, envision a different woman. Her partner raises his voice. She pauses, takes a breath, and within that brief moment of stillness, she doesn't just hear his words. She perceives his underlying distress. She doesn't reciprocate his agitation. She remains steadfast in her own composure. And from that state of calm, she selects a response that is insightful rather than impulsive. This is the profound strength of inner quietness. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a demonstration of mastery. And it profoundly alters how others interact with you. In traditional Eastern philosophies, there is a saying, "The wise one drinks water." But here's the ripple. But this signifies that she not only exists, but also listens profoundly to the subtleties of life. She discerns energy. She observes when someone's smile does not align with their eyes. She perceives what remains unspoken in a dialogue. Because her mind is not cluttered with internal noise, she perceives things with remarkable clarity. A woman of this nature becomes somewhat enigmatic to others. Why? Because she is not easily predictable. She does not engage in every dispute. She does not involve herself in every dramatic situation. She does not participate in every argument. And in a world that seems addicted to immediate reactions, her restraint becomes alluring. People sense something distinct in her presence, a deep stability, a quiet knowing. However, this quietness is not merely a spiritual concept. It is eminently practical. In the realm of personal connections, it marks the distinction between disagreements that escalate into full-blown conflicts and relationships that genuinely deepen. There is a narrative about an elderly woman in a village renowned for her ability to mediate disagreements between couples. People would seek her out anticipating advice. Yet she would frequently sit in silence for extended periods, her eyes closed, simply listening intently. When questioned about her delay in speaking, she explained, "I await the truth to emerge from the quietness, not the anger, not the fear, but the truth itself." This is the type of woman who does not speak from a place of hurt. She waits until her wisdom has returned, and only then does she offer her words. Modern science supports this wisdom. Research indicates that when you allow your mind even 90 seconds of quiet after experiencing emotional stimulation, the amygdala, the brain's emotional control center, begins to calm down. You didn't love her, enabling the logical parts of the brain to re-engage. This means that if you pause for just a brief moment before reacting, your likelihood of expressing something insightful instead of something you later regret increases significantly. Truly intelligent women comprehend this fundamental principle, and therefore, they cultivate quietness not solely through meditation or morning customs, but in the midst of challenging situations. When insulted, they do not rush to defend themselves. When misunderstood, they do not frantically attempt to clarify. When overlooked, they do not diminish their presence. They remain internally composed. And from that inner stillness, the appropriate next step becomes unmistakably clear. However, this quietness does not imply an absence of feeling. On the contrary, it signifies that they experience everything profoundly, but they are not controlled by anything. This brings us to the second principle, understanding when to embody gentleness and when to maintain steadfastness. Gentleness is frequently mistaken for frailty, and strength is often conflated with severity. Yet, a truly intelligent woman has transcended these misconceptions. She has experienced being excessively gentle and being taken advantage of. She has also been overly rigid and inadvertently pushed meaningful connections away. And now, through careful consideration and self-awareness, she embodies both gentleness and strength in a harmonious balance. Emotional discipline is the subtle art she practices daily, not for the sake of others, because she profoundly respects her own energy. She recognizes that reacting with anger, while it might feel empowering in the moment, ultimately drains her vitality. She understands that consistently being the one who forgives too readily, who yields too easily, who remains quiet to avoid conflict, eventually compromises her self-worth. Consequently, she adopts a new rhythm. When an individual disregards her personal boundary, she doesn't shout. She simply ceases to grant them access to her presence. When a friend reaches out only when they require something, she doesn't scold them. She simply stops answering every time. When life feels overwhelming, she doesn't collapse. She deliberately slows down, listens to her body's signals, and adjusts her pace accordingly. This is akin to steel, quiet, calm, firm, unyielding. Yet, within that steadfastness, there is still gentleness. The gentleness to forgive without becoming naive. The gentleness to weep without losing her emotional stability. The gentleness to love profoundly without losing herself in the process. Psychologists describe this as emotional flexibility, the capacity to transition between different emotional states without becoming trapped in any one of them. It is not the absence of feeling, but the deliberate choice of how to respond within relationships. This fosters trust. Men, for instance, often feel a greater sense of emotional security with a woman who can experience deep emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. A woman who can articulate her needs with clarity, rather than through blame or guilt. A woman who can maintain her composure with grace, even when circumstances do not unfold as she wished. This is not a performance. This is a manifestation of maturity, and it attracts genuine intimacy. there is an account of a woman whose husband became distant and aloof. For months, she attempted every possible approach. Conversations, tears, and even periods of silence. But nothing seemed to change. One evening, instead of repeating the same ineffective patterns, she calmly stated, "I love you, but I will no longer bear the burden of this connection by myself. I am here if you wish to rebuild, but I will no longer plead for your engagement." That was the first time he truly listened to her. Not because she had raised her voice, but because her message was unequivocally clear. Her words were not emotional threats. They were firmly grounded personal limits, and he could perceive the unwavering resolve beneath her gentle demeanor. This is the kind of woman people respect. Even if they do not agree with her, they know she means what she says. Her presence is not chaotic. Her affection is not desperate. Her feelings are not uncontrolled. She brings a sense of tranquility, and people either rise to meet her at her level or gradually withdraw from her life. From a neurological standpoint, this emotional self-regulation reinforces the prefrontal cortex, establishing a feedback loop of enhanced resilience. When a woman effectively manages her feelings, she cultivates a greater sense of security in her relationships. And when her relationships feel secure, her brain becomes more adaptable and flexible. It is a cyclical process of self-mastery, but it commences with a single practice: pausing, taking a breath before speaking, asking herself, "Is this reaction consistent with the woman I am evolving into?" Then deliberately choosing the appropriate tone, the right timing, and the genuine truth of her words. And even when she falters, as all human beings do, she does not engage in self-reproach. She reflects, she adjusts, she continues to grow. That is emotional intelligence in practical application. You didn't love her. A woman who discerns when to be gentle and when to be unyielding is not easily manipulated. She cannot be coerced into excessive generosity through guilt, nor can she be provoked into uttering regrettable words. She moves with deliberate intent, and this imbues her relationships with an invisible but unmistakable strength. She does not rely on dominance or subservience. She lives in equilibrium, and this balance of inner quietness and insightful judgment, of gentleness and fortitude, you didn't love her, becomes the bedrock of her leadership, her love, and her lasting influence. There is a subtle yet profound ability possessed by truly intelligent women that is frequently overlooked in a world that prioritizes the loudest voice. That ability is observation. She has diligently trained herself to notice, to listen beyond superficial appearances, to remain rooted in awareness even when the world demands an immediate reaction. This habit is not born from apprehension, but from rigorous self-discipline. It is a quiet manifestation of power, the deliberate choice to comprehend before seeking to be understood. A truly intelligent woman observes more than she speaks, not because she lacks anything to express, but because she understands that most people listen only to formulate a reply, not to genuinely grasp another's perspective. And she has no desire to squander her valuable energy in superficial conversations or fleeting connections. There is a narrative about a woman who commenced employment at a new workplace. While others were quick to assert themselves, demonstrate their value, and establish their position, she chose to remain in the background for the initial few weeks. She watched, she listened, she observed how individuals communicated, noting the differences in their demeanor when the manager was present versus when he was absent. She took note of who claimed credit, who accepted accountability, and who maintained silence during conflicts. By the end of the month, she had constructed a mental not merely of job roles and official titles, but of individual personalities, energetic patterns, underlying motivations, and levels of trustworthiness. This practice of calm observation enabled her to act with wisdom rather than anxiety. When she eventually spoke, her words carried considerable weight, not because she was more vocal than others, but because her insights were rooted in genuine presence. And genuine presence is a rare quality. When a woman truly perceives people, not through judgment, but through clear understanding, she earns a level of respect that cannot be demanded. Neuroscience corroborates this. The act of profound observation activates the mirror neuron system, a complex network within the brain that allows us to empathize and intuitively comprehend the emotional states of others. When a woman disciplines herself to observe not just words, but also tone of voice, body posture, and overall energy, she sharpens her intuition. This intuition, or what some might refer to as a woman's sixth sense, is not mystical in origin. It is the direct consequence of focused attention combined with a high degree of emotional literacy. Many women have recounted experiences where, in retrospect, they realized they had perceived the warning signs but chose to disregard them. The man who consistently avoided eye contact when offering an apology. The friend whose compliments always carried a subtle hint of rivalry. The colleague who was amiable in public but dismissive in private. All the indicators were present, yet they were obscured by the constant rush of daily activities, pervasive distractions, and the innate desire to assume the best intentions. However, the truly intelligent woman does not jump to conclusions, nor does she hastily defend her own viewpoint. She pauses. She contemplates. She observes how people conduct themselves when they are agitated, when they are content, when they feel powerful, and when they perceive a threat. She listens with all her senses because she understands that individuals reveal their true selves not solely through what they articulate, but also through how they express it. And crucially, through what they choose to keep unsaid. In the context of relationships, this habit becomes both a form of self-protection and a pathway to deeper intimacy simultaneously. A woman who observes carefully is not easily swayed by superficial charm. She sees beyond the meticulously crafted persona. She notices the discrepancies between a person's spoken words and their actual behaviors. She pays close attention to how a man treats service staff, how he speaks about former partners, how he handles rejection, or how he responds to being corrected. And from these seemingly minor details, she gains an understanding of his fundamental character. But she also employs her observational skills to cultivate and strengthen connections rooted in love. She notices when her partner is quiet, understanding that it might be due to aloofness, but rather a sign that he is burdened. She senses when something feels amiss, not because he explicitly states it, but because his energetic presence is different. And this perceptive awareness allows her to respond in ways that foster a sense of security and belonging. Because she is not merely guessing, she is actively paying attention. A wise woman once articulated, "I do not ask many questions, I simply watch as the answers reveal themselves." This calm awareness makes her presence profoundly attractive. She listens in a manner that makes people genuinely seen and heard. She perceives the subtle nuances, how someone's voice changes when they discuss their aspirations, how their shoulders relax when they finally feel secure, how their eyes illuminate when they speak of their childhood memories. And because she truly sees people, others naturally feel inclined to open up to her. However, her observation is not a passive activity. She also utilizes it to guide her own conduct. She observes her own tone of voice when she is feeling wary. She scrutinizes the patterns of her own thoughts when she experiences insecurity. She becomes a diligent student of her own inner landscape. And this is precisely where observation transforms into profound personal change. When she can observe herself without harsh self-judgment, she is able to evolve with grace. She notices when she is falling back into old patterns, such as people-pleasing, over-explaining, or emotional withdrawal. And because she perceives these tendencies with clarity, she is not enslaved by them. This heightened self-awareness brings a liberating sense of emotional freedom. It embodies the difference between declaring, "That's just who I am," and recognizing, "That was who I used to be." From this stable foundation of observation, another potent habit emerges: creation. A truly intelligent woman is not content with simply absorbing information, fleeting trends, external opinions, or the approval of others. She creates. She cultivates space for her mind to flourish. She allocates time for her own well-being. She instills beauty in her surroundings, fosters peace in her relationships, and establishes clear structure in daily life. This act of creation is not always publicly displayed. It may not materialize on a stage or within a professional portfolio, but it is undeniably real. She records her thoughts in her journal. She meticulously prepares her meals with mindful intention. She carefully designs her morning routine. She purposefully shapes her personal environment, and in doing so, she reiterates to herself on a daily basis, "I am the architect of my own life," not merely a passive participant waiting for events to unfold. There is a distinction between aimless movement and purposeful motion. One is guided by clear intention, the other by ingrained habit. A woman who is perpetually scrolling, reacting, rushing, constantly checking her devices is in aimless motion. But a woman who pauses to create, who reads to expand her understanding, writes to reflect, builds to express, the woman is engaged in purposeful movement, intentional, directed, vibrant. This fundamental shift from mere consumption to active creation alters everything within her relationships. When a woman is constantly consuming advice, seeking approval, gathering opinions from others, she gradually loses connection to her own intrinsic wisdom. She begins to rely on others to dictate what is correct, how she should feel, and who she ought to be. But when she engages in creation, she reclaims that inherent power. Her journal becomes her trusted advisor. Her established routines become her sanctuary. Her moments of quiet contemplation become her most profound teacher. In romantic relationships, this habit prevents emotional dependence. She does not rely on her partner to furnish her sense of purpose or her emotional stability. She brings a rich and complete life to the relationship. She generates joy. Rather than passively awaiting it, she initiates acts of care rather than demanding them. And this makes her affection generous and authentic rather than desperate or clingy. There is an account of a woman who endured a deeply painful romantic separation. Her identity had become entirely intertwined with that relationship. After its conclusion, she found herself adrift and disoriented. For months, she immersed herself in every available resource, seeking self-help books, online programs, and therapy sessions. While these resources offered some assistance, something essential remained absent. Then one day, she rediscovered her old paintbrush. She had engaged in painting for many years. As she recommenced the act of creating, something profound shifted within her. The sorrow did not vanish, but it underwent a transformation. Her artistic expression provided her with a voice, a mirror reflecting her inner self, a place where she could return to her authentic being. She later expressed, "It wasn't the act of painting itself that healed me. It was the powerful reminder that I still possessed something valuable to contribute to the world beyond my pain." This is the profound wisdom inherent in creation. It is not about producing artistic masterpieces. It is about actively practicing presence. And in that state of presence, a woman consistently rediscovers her true self. Science echoes this profound truth. Engaging in creative endeavors stimulates the brain's default mode network, which plays a crucial role in self-reflection, emotional processing, and even effective problem solving. When a woman creates, she is not attempting to escape her reality. She is actively integrating it. This habit also fundamentally reshapes her relationship with time. She no longer perceives life as something that simply happens to her. She becomes an active participant. Rather than merely a respondent, she thoughtfully chooses how to commence her day, how to conclude it, how to find rest, and how to reconnect with herself. She doesn't just consume food, she deliberately creates nourishment. She doesn't just consume media, she establishes clear and healthy boundaries around it. She doesn't just passively consume relationships, she actively contributes to them, infusing them with vitality and life. And as she consistently engages in these acts, something truly beautiful occurs. Her energetic presence becomes magnetic. Her people can distinctly sense when a woman is living with deliberate intention. Her presence emanates depth. She doesn't seek attention. She doesn't engage in competition. She simply is. And that authentic state is far more powerful than any contrived performance. However, this act of creation also necessitates discipline. You didn't love her. It is often simpler to scroll through endless content than to commit words to paper, easier to react impulsively than to diligently build something, easier to indulge in mindless consumption than engage in profound self-reflection. Consequently, the truly intelligent woman does not passively wait for inspiration to strike. She meticulously cultivates a rhythm, a designated space within her life where the act of creation becomes an ingrained habit. Whether it's dedicating 10 minutes in the morning, taking a silent stroll in the evening, or unplugging from the digital world for an entire day each week, she makes a firm commitment. And in doing so, she continually rediscovers herself, not amidst the clamor, but within the quiet, deliberate act of choosing what she brings forth into the world. Observation reveals to her what simply is. Creation reminds her of what can be. You didn't love her. And together, these two practices form the very essence of a life with profound purpose rather than superficial performance. There is a subtle grace in a woman who doesn't feel the need to elaborate on her personal limits. She doesn't declare them aggressively. She doesn't implore others to respect them. She doesn't compromise her own well-being simply to prevent others from feeling uncomfortable. Her personal boundary isn't a rigid barrier, it's an inherent rhythm, a natural pulse. And those who can harmonize with that rhythm remain in her life. Those who cannot gently recede into the background of her existence. A truly intelligent woman understands that personal limits are not designed to keep people at bay. They are about maintaining the integrity and alignment of her own energy. She has learned through life's experiences that expending too much of herself on individuals who reciprocate too little leads to profound exhaustion, lingering resentment, and a disconnection from her own inner equilibrium. Consequently, her boundaries become sacred tenets, upheld not by forceful assertion, but by consistent adherence. When an individual repeatedly demonstrates a disregard for her time, she doesn't raise her voice. She simply becomes less accessible. When someone crosses a boundary, even in a subtle way, with disrespect or manipulation, she doesn't plead with them to acknowledge her worth. She withdraws with poise, with inner peace, and with a sense of finality. And in that measured withdrawal, she conveys a potent message, not through verbal explanations, but through her actions. I choose myself. The world often misunderstands women who adopt this approach. They may be labeled as cold, aloof, or excessively proud, but what is overlooked is the profound wisdom that underpins their quiet demeanor. They have shed tears behind closed doors. They have stretched themselves too thin in the past. They have articulated their pain to unheeding ears. And in that crucible of experience, they were forged, not into an unfeeling stone, but into unwavering clarity. And true clarity has no need to scream. In psychology, the concept of enmeshment refers to a blurring of individual boundaries within relationships, where one person's identity becomes so intricately intertwined with another's that their distinct sense of self diminishes. Truly intelligent women have often navigated through such entanglements. They have loved with such profound intensity that they lost sight of themselves. And when that affection was not reciprocated with genuine respect, they were left feeling empty. But instead of becoming, they became better. Not louder, but clearer. And from that newfound clarity, they began to reconstruct a life where their personal boundaries were not mere reactions, but authentic reflections of their self-respect. Consider the woman who consistently agreed to every request. Yes to offering assistance. Yes to working late. Yes to forgiving without allowing for genuine healing. She mistakenly believed that love necessitated self-sacrifice, and that being constantly available equated to being valuable. Yet internally, she was quietly disintegrating. No one perceived her struggle because she concealed it, until one day she could no longer give what she herself lacked. She reached the precipice of utter exhaustion, not merely physically, but emotionally as well. It was in that profound stillness, after exhaustion had completely depleted her, that she realized a sacred truth. No one was going to grant her the life she deserved unless she actively claimed it. And claiming it undeniably meant establishing boundaries. She began with small, manageable steps, intentionally turning her phone off 8:100 p.m. without offering explanations, simply doing it, declining invitations to events that didn't resonate with her true self, canceling plans when her body signaled a need for rest, and refusing to engage with disrespect even when it was subtly disguised with compliments. And gradually, the world around her began to adapt. Some individuals quietly drifted away. Others grew closer, now treating her with the very respect she had begun to show herself. A woman who does not explain her personal limits is not unkind. She is simply no longer accessible for relationship dynamics that dishonor her. She understands that a man who is genuinely right for her will not require her to diminish herself, to overextend her capacities, or to endlessly explain herself just to be understood. He will comprehend her quiet cues. He will respect her inherent rhythm. He will value her inner peace. In the intricate dance of relationship dynamics, this becomes a vital filtering mechanism. Individuals who are accustomed to testing others' limits through guilt, emotional manipulation, or subtle coercion will quickly discover that there is no entry point with her. She does not engage in emotional power struggles. She chooses to disengage, even if it causes momentary discomfort. Because to her, no connection is worth the price of abandoning her own authentic self. There is a profound saying that states, your boundary is not subject to negotiation. If someone dislikes it, they are free to depart. The truly intelligent woman embodies this truth, not as a defensive mechanism, but as a lived philosophy. She has nothing to prove. Her presence is her definitive answer. Her absence is her definitive answer. Her inner peace is her definitive answer. But personal limits are not solely about interactions with others. They are also about her relationship with herself She establishes boundaries with her own tendencies to overthink, to engage in self-criticism, and to revisit past wounds that are actively striving to heal. She discerns when her mind is spiraling into old narratives, stories where she felt she wasn't enough, wasn't loved, wasn't chosen. And she gently but firmly tells herself, not today. I no longer reside in that place. This act of self-boundary becomes an act of profound inner leadership. She is no longer at the mercy of every fleeting thought or emotion. She respects her own energy too much to allow it to be squandered on regret or the desire for retribution. Her attention becomes a sacred currency, and she expends it only on that which aligns with her deepest truth. One woman recounted how she used to rationalize others' inappropriate behavior. He didn't mean it. She's just under a lot of stress. They're really doing their best. But over time, you didn't love her. She came to the realization that constantly accommodating others' inconsistencies was eroding her own sense of integrity. She wasn't merely permitting them to mistreat her. She was inadvertently teaching them that such behavior was acceptable. And so, she made a deliberate shift. Now, when someone offers an apology but exhibits no change in behavior, she quietly withdraws. When someone makes promises but consistently fails to follow through, she adjusts her expectations, not with resentment, but with crystal clear understanding. This is because she has learned that love without respect is not genuine love, and attention without consistency is not true commitment. In romantic connections, you didn't love her. This type of woman is both captivatingly enigmatic and profoundly grounding. Enigmatic because she cannot be easily predicted or controlled. Love her. Grounding because her energetic presence brings a remarkable clarity. Her partner experiences the security that comes from her established standards. He understands that a relationship with her is deeply meaningful, but it is not devoid of personal responsibility. She will not pursue. She will not attempt to persuade. She will not compromise her core identity simply to maintain someone's interest. This is not a demonstration of power through dominance. It is power derived from self-possession. She knows precisely who she is. She understands what she values. And she comprehends that anyone who attempts to transgress her limits under the guise of affection is not offering genuine love at all. Eastern philosophy imparts the teaching that a woman in harmony with herself becomes like water, soft yet possessing the ability to shape mountains. She does not resist the currents of life, but rather flows in sync with them. And an integral part of that flow is knowing when to decline, when to step back, when to safeguard the internal space that enables her to flourish. This form of self-protection is not always overtly apparent. Sometimes it involves disconnecting from the news. Sometimes it means refraining from engaging in family drama. You didn't love her. Sometimes it entails withholding an emotional reaction when someone is clearly attempting to provoke one. And sometimes it is simply choosing quietness instead of arguing with an individual determined to misunderstand her. There is immense peace in not needing to meticulously explain every detail. You didn't love her, in trusting that what is genuinely aligned will remain, and what is not will naturally fall away.